Okay, welcome back. So we are on money principle number nine. Nine. Okay, and we've dealt with the last one dealt with God's response, right, to your understanding of the entrusting concept. When He sees that you understand that whatever He gives you is in trust, and you display the ability to manage resources effectively, then He just unleashes everything else on you, right? And you just find yourself in the big time. But what is the response to the person who doesn't do that, right? Because remember that there were three servants. Two of them showed the ability to maximize resources, but the last did not. The guy with the one talent who went off and buried the talent in the ground. Now, listen to the response of the owner to that guy. The guy said, um, I knew you were a hard man, essentially, and I was afraid. So I went off and I dug a hole and I put the silence in the ground. And here it is. He gave him back the same thing. He didn't do anything to it. He didn't deplete it. Yeah, he didn't deplete it, but he didn't add to it either. Now listen to the response of the master. He said, "You wicked and lazy servant." The complete opposite of what he said to the other guy or the other two guys. He called them good and faithful. He called this guy wicked and lazy. You're probably thinking, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? It's not as if the guy just squandered the money. At least he preserved it. The guy gave him a talent of gold. Maybe it was worth $1 million. And he gave back his $1 million. I mean, what's the big deal? But that is not the way God sees it. The very least he expects you to do is to add some value to it. If you go further into the response of the master, he said, "Oh, so you knew that I'm a hard man and I like to reap where I don't sow, right?" But the very least you could have done was to take this money to the bank and generated some interest. He doesn't want you to return to him the resource in the same way and manner that he gave it to you. He always gives you seed. Whatever he gives you is seed. Whatever he gives you is seed. I can't stress that enough. Whatever he gives you is seed. Your job is to develop that seed. That is why he is always upset with anyone who returns a seed to him. He doesn't demand seed, he demands fruit. He demands fruit. So he said that at the very least, what you should have done was take it to the bank and generated some interest. Then I wouldn't have been upset with you. But for you to just return this seed to me, you are wicked. So when we say wicked, typically we think of, evil people, bad people doing all sorts of evil stuff and witches and devils and all that. But here is a very significant concept of wickedness in God's eyes, aside from the other stuff. He describes someone as wicked when the person takes what God has given him and does not add value to it. And like I said, like I alluded to earlier in the earlier episodes, it doesn't just start and end with money. It also extends to everything that God gives you, whether it's a relationship, it's people, it's a house, it's a job, whatever He gives you, He expects you to add value to it. He expects you to add value to it. When you don't add value to it, you are wicked in His sight. And what else did He say? He said lazy. And that's a very significant word, lazy, right? So you might be thinking, well, the guy wasn't that lazy. I mean, he had enough strength to dig a hole, right? Deep enough to bury his talents inside. But God called him lazy. And he called him lazy because he did not deploy the resource properly. And in closing, I'm going to share some principles that sort of wrap all these up. We talked about the principles individually, but there's some other key concepts that would enable you to fully understand the entire picture. So that comes next.